Well, as we said before, we are going to be talking about custom menswear.
Yeah, it's funny because I think one of the first topics that we ever did on the stream was kind of like about like our dream suits and what we would do. I remember Kiyoshi said that
Mm.
we talked about Dapper Dan. He would get a suit made from him because it's cool. It's cool to see to kind of let yourself go into what the tailor or designer or whatever what their vision is, right? I wrote about that in my essay. We didn't really get too much in the podcast. Again, the podcast is more of a reflection about our Spencer and I's experiences in custom, what we wish we would have known or what we would have learned, and a couple a little bit about the tailors that we like that we would love to try, like Taylor Cade, B and Taylor. I added Sitchio to the list because like I watched the document, the little like 17-minute like the China Times or whatever feature on him, and it was really cool. And I started to appreciate these things. But yeah, I mean, the big thing about custom is, you know, going to a tailor because you like their cut. It's not really, as Spencer and I kind of talked about, it's not really about going to a guy and saying, "Hey, make this for me." Like you can't really do that. There might be some guys who can, and but that's one of the things that you develop a relationship with the maker. But yeah, listen to the podcast first, and listen to and read my essay on it, which is a lot more introspective to my experience. Um, it's really good, and I think some people enjoyed it. MFA tended to like it. I got a really weird comment from that guy. I don't know if you guys saw that.
That
Right?
was weird. Yeah.
Wait, what was it
Yeah.
again?
So basically, this guy was like, what you're describing is basically making tweaks. You should just do made to measure, or you should do more research on these brands before you try it out." I'm like, research, really? you know it was just really bizarre. And he was like, yeah, when I go to my tailor in New York, I trust him completely and I know what he can do best, and it's bespoke and whatever. I know he's at Savile Row, but it's great. And I'm like, dude, I want to see what he makes, because it's like it's not just about like getting the right fit, right? Because I could say that Ascot Chang suit fits me well, right? Like it
Yeah.
looks like it's like made to my measurements. There's nothing, it's not overly tight or whatever. But if you're thinking about it in terms of like what your desired POV is, or what you
Yeah.
want the suit to look like, then you start kind of, becoming at odds with what you've got. And there's no really, it's as I've talked about in the Discord, it's a little bit, it's a partnership between the two, because you don't want to go to you don't go to Edward Sexton and you're going to be like, "Hey, make me Anderson and Shepherd suit. I want the soft
No.
English drape." That's not how that works. But, if you go to Edward Sexton, you should still be confident, like, okay, well, there's still a different way that Edward Sexton approaches stuff. You can see that in the way Edward Sexton himself wears his suits compared to, the things that you see, who's the model guy? Fucking that really attractive like British guy that's always wearing stuff. He's like the new David Gandy for like menswear, because everyone like shoots like he's in a bunch of different lookbooks.
Is it the guy with the
Um,
beard?
yeah, that guy. I forgot what his name is, but like he wore a couple of like older models and some new models of Edward Sexton, and they're all different. I mean, I was able to see Edward Sexton in person, not the man, but like the guy from Justin Jorgensen from Dapper Day got a suit made from Edward Sexton from their offshore bespoke, I believe. The one that's like, it's like cheaper. It's like 6,000 compared to like 8 or 9 or however much it is. And of course, you still have to be like, okay, well, I want this fit. I don't want it to be too waist suppressed or whatever. And in that comment to that guy, I was like, I'm pretty sure what I'm looking for is a lot more nuanced than what you're looking for. Um, it's still there's still that aspect, and I think that that's really important for custom, because as we all talked about in all the other episodes of the stream and everything, the more you get into menswear, the more details you become aware of, right? Like it's kind of like
it's impossible when we care about this stuff so much. It's hard to just go in blind and like, okay, I trust whatever you do. Like, we're gonna have some opinions,
Yeah.
so there's like a middle ground.
David here says, if you're going to go bespoke, you should have the right to be get as pedantic as you want, but the initial decision for maker should be taken into account. And I agree, because the other thing is you are paying a lot of money for this, no matter where you go. I'm sure the tailor wants you to have what you want too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hopefully.
It's kind of like a partnership, right? Like you gotta,
me in the middle, man.
like I think that a couple of times, when you watch some old stuff or like talk to vintage guys, you're like, yeah, I hate these kids who come in here and they want to dictate everything. I think that that's true to an extent, but sometimes the customer is right a little bit, right? Like asking for a burger without ketchup is not a big deal. Like that's something
That's a
that's
huge
something
deal.
easily.
It's
Like,
crazy.
like if you're a place where you're like, oh, no custom orders on your burgers, you're gonna miss out on the guy who, maybe doesn't
On
want the
Ethan.
ketchup or doesn't want the Thousand Island. It doesn't mean that your stuff is bad, but maybe if he tastes it and he goes, okay, maybe next time I want to get it the full way, right? Like I think that's totally valid, right? Like
the whole
if I were to get Edward Sexton, which I mean, I still think his stuff would be cool, and I think I could still pull it off. But it's like I don't think I would get the crazy pagoda shoulder. I don't know if I would get it that far, but I would still get it, a little bit different. I would still maybe get like the belly, even though I like horizontal, very straight peaks. I still might be able to get it because that's
or at least
inherent
work
in
up
his
to the
style.
crazy stuff later.
Exactly, right?
Start
I
easy.
mean, yeah. And I think a lot of tailors, I think, are okay with that, which is why I said in the article, right? Like, I think that bespoke looks really good when you're getting like a standard like navy suit, brown suit, black suit. You could get it in linen, whatever, but like, don't go don't go too crazy, right? Like, you want to get like that cohesive look because I think a suit. From a bespoke maker or made to measure, wherever you want to do it. Like when you get the cohesive look, that's like a true testament to what their vision or the combination of your vision and the maker's vision, right? Like I think that's really cool to kind of to try and do together. But the custom is really, it's still very anxiety inducing,
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
we talked about a lot. I mean, that was like the whole. I think that's why that guy in that who responded to me on MFA was like, "Oh, the anxiety, like, oh, you're just not doing enough research." And I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about? Like, just because you do a bunch of research doesn't mean you still can't be apprehensive about the process, right?" And then I'm not able to kind of get custom as often as I want to, because obviously, right? Like one of the big things Spencer and I talked about is like the first thing that you get is going to be bad, or maybe not bad, but it's not going
to be. Yeah, you're gonna get it, and you're gonna say, okay, well, there's a lot of things I gotta change.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you go to Blaze Pizza and you're gonna get some stuff on it. You're like, okay, maybe next time I'm not gonna get the sweet corn on my pizza or something.
God.
The sad thing though, right, is that because it's so expensive for menswear guys, it can be kind of tough to get the next one, right?
Yeah.
Like Spencer, you only have one pair of sofas.
Yep,
one pair.
I do have one pair of sofas. I mean, I could do a second pair, but it's have it.
And if people try some kind of custom thing, they break it, they get disenfranchised from it, and so like fuck it or whatever, or like they try to make it work, and that's kind of a bummer, when that happens.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've had that too, right? Where I'm like, okay, I got the suit from Ascot Chang. Now I could potentially still get it half off. It's still going to be $1,000, $1,000 whatever, because it's Ascot Chang and that's half of the price. But it's still like, okay, like I don't know if I want to get another one yet because that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
David says paying $3,000 for a pair of shoes and saying we'll get it right on the next one is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean, how many restaurants have we? Okay, like this is but I know for Spencer, right? We went to your birthday once, and we went to that Italian place, and it was like $20 a dish, and it was so
not
small.
a lot of food.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No offense, but I'm like, unless it's an event, I'm not going back here, dude. Like, it's like I had no idea, I had no idea. Like, I didn't look it up on Yelp. I mean, we picked it because it was a recommendation, and it tasted good.
Yeah, it was a good
but
place.
I was like, I'm hungry, man. I wanna, I mean, I don't know what you can translate that to menswear. Like, I think you gotta really love it.
I'm a growing boy,
Yeah, but I mean, I think because I think you can translate this to, Spencer and I coming from vintage, where we're like, okay, like, again, maybe we have an allowance. Maybe we have to say, like, we only get money on our birthday and Christmas, so you gotta make this like $100 last for like 6 months or whatever. But then vintage, right? Like $300 for a vintage suit. You gotta make sure you love that fucking suit, man. You gotta find out, or you're buying on eBay right? And you're gonna be like, okay, can't return it. They say no returns. That's $200. I've triple checked my measurements. You got to find out. And of course, with the custom, it's not that you're confident putting the numbers in there. It's more like, do you trust the numbers that you have just input in yourself, right? Or there's that trust of the person that you're giving this to, or if you're going to, with the whole issue with guys with like, what was it like not Oliver Wicks, Indochino, right? Where it was like, oh, the salesperson fucked up because like, what the hell happened, right?
Right.
But that's what happens when you're doing made to measure, and of course, not many of us have the ability to get a fitting, right? Like a fitted garment first before you can try it on. Well, before you get the finished product, like that's why bespoke is so labor intensive, because you got to ship it back and forth wherever you are, or take it back to the factory and do the muslin fitting or whatever. Yeah, multiple fittings as well. I've still never done that. Everything I've bought has been like, that's it. Like, okay, I know I'm going to get the next one, and I'm going to adjust. Am I okay with keeping this other suit that is still good, but is not exactly perfect? Like my Atelier Fugue suits. I don't know if I got into it in the podcast, but the brown cotton suits from the first time I used them, are too slim in the arms. I mean, again, I can still wear it, but compared to what the ideal is, I could have used like an inch or a half an inch or more circumference room in the sleeve, and that's something you maybe could have fixed in by getting a fitting, but with made to measure places, so it's just kind of hard,
It is trial and error, but at a huge scale and with the stakes so raised because of the money for it and the time it takes, especially with some of these makers as well.
Right. Yeah. And then it gets worse too. I think we talked about this in the pod too, and in my blog post, where once you start being able to afford, maybe you can start getting made to measure. You can start buying better ready to wear. So it's like, okay, then why get custom if you can fit it? Like for me, again, the big issue that I talked about was, like ring jacket has been pretty. Yeah. But like ring jacket was really good. So it's like, okay, why do I need to get like a custom or even made to order one when it's still, I can still wear it, right? But then the answer is, if I want the full suit, maybe I do have to get custom and everything.
Right.
But Matt, have you had any custom stuff? I know Spencer and I talked about it in the pod, but anything?
I've had two. Right. Yeah, I've had two custom experiences. In 2018, I went on an Indochino suit. This was my first one. It was it wasn't crazy at all, guys. It's what many people would get for a first suit. It was
sounds crazy.
Brown. No, it's totally normal. It's a brown flannel, wide peak lapels, double-breasted, patch pockets, cuffs, side tab adjusters, contrast stitching. Oh man! So it was the most first custom suit you could possibly get, and so that lasted a little bit. But and the pants are great. I mean, it came out to be sort of like a natural, not like short rise, but sort of like around natural rise. It wasn't like high rise, but it was still like passable for like me learning about this kind of Drakesy look and all that stuff.
Wait, so they lasted a while. Yourself?
I think I must. No. A local tailor. I think I went to get my measurements for that. Probably, yeah. I don't think I used their online. I didn't use the website or Friend. I used a local tailor for that. So yeah, that I feel like the issue that I found with that, because there's a DB jacket, and I think it's just something about the slimness of the leg with maybe the length of the jacket. Like, I don't know, it seemed the proportions were off. Like it was top heavy a little bit when you buttoned it. So that was, I think, an issue I faced with that suit as well. But I mean, I wore it a lot. It's, I really wanted a brown suit, and a flannel is my first flannel suit. So I made it work, and then practical stuff, and the patch pockets were nice. So it was nice in some ways, but yeah, kind of a fuck up. The second one was my almost wedding suit. But I went through this company called The Drop, which was like some weird, like, overseas something. It was just like horrible, and like our whole idea was to find a burgundy suit in like a worsted and get it exactly like a Drake suit. So it'd be like the 3-roll-2, the patch pockets, the patch ticket pockets, and the cuffs, side tabs, and all that stuff. And initially they didn't find our burgundy color, and I was like, this is, I think it's fine. I was like doing a show at the middle, so like, but my partner at the time was very adamant. No, like it was one of those like they said this, and you better get this. Like they were yelling at them. So we eventually got the color that was correct and with black buttons, but I ended up getting like a very short rise pants and slim as well. So that is, I think though, if I ever found the brown flannel, I didn't bring it with me, but I think I could still technically wear that, but I could not wear the burgundy wedding suit because that was just too like low rise and slim to the point that I could not fasten it on my waist now. And that was like 18, 19-ish. So yeah, it's kind of weird how like ever since I got into menswear in 2017, I've been making lists, watching the Gentleman's Gazette videos, what suits to get. And you make the Oliver Wicks shopping cart that goes a page long, just like, oh, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? But yet I've only so far done these 2 custom things. It's kind of weird. But that's kind of just my history, at least. For now. Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that changes.
I know.
MJ.
It's me.
Established.
Yeah. I know that you don't
I don't
have any custom stuff, but what do you think what would it be?
I don't know yet.
All right.
I'll have to get a bigger closet first.
Mm-hmm.
Or AKA move.
Right.
Whether that's with my family or out by myself or with friends. I don't know yet, but I am kind of excited to explore options for a suit. Like Matt was saying, his first his suit, like he kind of like went crazy. So that's like one of the things that I'm not
Keeping
scared
in
of,
mind,
but
right?
like I know what it's like to like be excited about having like something where you could choose all the options.
Well, yeah, because it's like we talk about this where it's like you're only getting like 2 button flat pocket things most of the time, and you have no control over rise 3-roll-2. You just don't get it. So now you get these options. So you really have to focus what's important. What's like not too over the top. So yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
Because like the things that I have that are quote unquote be considered tailoring wasn't even necessarily tailored for me, or
sure,
it was for Ethan. we just happened to be similar enough size that like
anything
jackets
that's
and
short
stuff
for me in the body, I just give it to MJ.
Yeah, like the most what was the most that we had to do was like the waist and the arms on a jacket, like just shorten it a little bit and stuff.
Yeah, basically that's basically it.
But yeah, I don't have no bespoke, no made to measure.
I mean, I don't have real bespoke. By that I mean, the fitting process is still I'm not.
I guess
yet,
yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, do you know like out of what we've talked about, like I think like what would you want to make first? Pants? Maybe pants because it's hard to find cool pants, or do you think sport coats and tailoring? Because I know that your style isn't exactly as tailored, right? So
yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, pants probably. I'd probably get more wear out of pants than a jacket, or even a suit for that matter. Like I want like a suit, but like as far as wearability, probably pants.
I mean that's me too. Right? I think the most pants that I have, are not most pants, but like most of the custom that I have is custom for me, right? I have like the Hurtling pants that I guess not custom because it's made to order, but I did request to lengthen the rise. So technically I guess they are custom because they did alter something to me, and they actually did hem them for me. They asked what my desired inseam was, so that worked out. which is really nice of them. But yeah, I see I have those. I've got like the Stofas, right? I don't know. I think it for custom, maybe I don't know if this is advice or if this applies to everyone, but I think it's usually people think they need the suit first, but I think you should look at what your wardrobe needs.
Right.
So for me, right, the first thing I ever got custom, and Ivan too, is the spear point collars, right? Like that, because that was something so important to my style, and you can't find that anywhere else. It wasn't, again, it's not so much about the fit, because I think I'm a decent off the rack size or whatever. I still regularly buy, the most shirts I buy are like vintage Brooks, 15 and a half, 34, OCBDs and button down collars and everything.
Yeah.
But the spear point is something that I just have because that's what made me, right?
Specific.
And
yeah.
so
I'm glad-
that made
yeah.
sense. That made sense to buy.
I'm glad you said
you're
that.
saying,
I
Matt?
totally forgot. I had my actually first custom wasn't even a suit. It was a shirt. It was the most ridiculous shirt in the world. It was a white slim fit shirt with the like collar pinhole club collar, and they had the collar bar with the pins on the end and like silver French cuff, and just just that silhouette with those details is insane. But yeah, I was very excited about that shirt, and just like again, that was the dandy phase. So you could get all those little accessories, but no, that shirt did not last either. But I think that's all custom. But yeah, I completely forgot about the shirt.
I mean, I think custom also teaches you nuances about your body and like fabric, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
it's really hard, like oh yeah, 120 whatever poplin broadcloth Oxford. It's like
Yeah.
you don't know what that fucking means, especially if you're going from buying it like J Crew or whatever. They're not going to tell you the fabric weight or they don't, like they say secret wash shirt, but that doesn't mean, like, what the fuck does that mean? Like what, like
Yeah,
like what's Madras, what's all this other stuff, and
they don't tell you,
on
yeah.
the natty shirts, when I got my spear points, like they'll tell you like the origin of it, which doesn't really matter, but it also says like, oh, this is a flannel shirt, this is like chambray or denim. It's like, okay, you don't really know, but then you buy 6 of them because it's like you buy 6 for like 100 and like almost $200, or I don't know how much it was. It was like
yeah.
$30 a shirt, and then it's like, oh, okay, so this Oxford is heavier than this one. This shirt is really thinner compared to that one. This one's like a linen blend or whatever, and you learn that, and then you also learn. Again, this is why we talk about it being such an expensive thing. Is like, oh, this time I got the 20-inch chest. Maybe I should do 22 to add an inch or two extra. But then you can't always afford to do that. Like I said,
No.
like my first ever Luxshire shirt was like painted on my body.
I think I remember now. The video I watched was that Tom Ford video of the guy getting dressed. So he had like a very like a poplin white with the collar bars thing like that. I was like, I want that. So that's probably literally what I tried to base it off of. So yeah, that's you pick your influences, and it doesn't always work out, but it's a trial and error.
Yeah, I mean it's an expensive trial and error.
Yeah,
it really is.
Is there ever a way to mitigate the cost of trial and error, or that just comes
to be a basic bitch?
Right? So the way I always thought about it is like, if you go to a bespoke guy that matches your vision, like go to Taylor Cade, or you go to I don't know, Anderson and Shepherd for a soft English thing or whatever, maybe it makes sense to wear ring jacket to them, or wear, whatever's closest. So then you can tell, okay, this is like this is the closest thing I have to what I want that I know you guys can do. Maybe, trying to approximate, or, and then you can say, I really want more room here or whatever, and being aware of that to kind of guide the conversation, and obviously ask questions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, go on.
I was going to say, I'm saying this but it's different because that's bespoke mainly, right? Or trunk show stuff compared to, let's say like talking to our friend Dave, who, even though he's very responsive and he's very great, some people I know have bought stuff from him, it's still limited by the factory and the fit model and the aesthetic that he's as a brand has given to that factory.
Right.
Like, you're probably not going to be able to change the buttoning point as much on it compared to like,
or the length of the fly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And some factories are pretty pretty adamant on that, or just because they're just not used to it, right?
Mhm.
But that's why you do research. I mean, that's why sometimes, again, suits is a lot harder. But like pants, like right, I like Stofa because you can get custom ones, right, with the long fly or whatever, or Hurtling, whatever, and
Yeah.
then you get your coats somewhere else because jackets you don't need to deal with that kind of shit, right? As long as it's button pocket harmony, you're good. So
Mhm.
anyway, it's really tough to get to mitigate any kind of exact. Like you're not gonna get anything
Yeah.
perfect because your taste is
Mhm.
gonna change. But I mean, you know, it's just tough.
I think if you're
naturally,
rich, none of this applies. You can just spend endless money until you get it right.
Absolutely,
It
that
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
work.
Well, that's
But I
the
would
goal,
say
but-
I would say quick that if you're starting out, you really just should not do custom or made to measure. You should just figure it out. Like just thrift, do ready to wear, learn by buying and seeing and
you
research.
probably don't need the suit to begin with, right? Like you're
No.
probably
Yeah.
not like
No.
like that brown suit. You didn't need that for
Skip
work
it.
or anything. You weren't, that's not like a corporate thing. You got it because you liked it, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah, be okay
learn
with
from there.
lesser things. Like it doesn't
Yeah, I
need to
need
be
it-
like a made to measure thing right now at the
I
beginning.
need it for clout. I need it for
Exactly.
See, the sad
Work
part
out
for
to.
MJ, right? I mean, the sad or the good part is that he never had to do like I'm gonna buy a custom suit from Indochino phase, but then he
Yeah.
went and tried on ring jacket while we were there. It's like, okay, well now
Yeah.
you want that fucking
Yeah.
shoulder, you want that full canvas.
It's like you're skipping too many
Or-
steps. Like honestly, for real about it, like everyone only needs one bespoke navy suit. Everyone in the world will just get one of that, and it's
Yeah.
like no, you can't just cut right to that. You have to.
Mhm.
There's more steps in between and money, So yeah, it's
Yeah.
not perfect like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I mean I think that's what kind of makes it a unique hobby, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
you can
I think we collect. We can say that, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but it's like
Collect.
unlike I don't know electronics or gaming, right? That's pretty close to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could go without getting a lot of clothes or spending a lot
Yeah.
on certain items.
Right.
Where it's just like electronics, like it's like yeah, I mean it's gonna be better than something you already have, even if you don't necessarily need it. Like it's
Right.
I don't know.
No, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're upgrading your wardrobe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what would you
Well,
get?
let's-
You maybe pants. What would you get, MJ, if you had to get some made to measure pants?
Some pants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's hard. Might lead into workwear-ish pants.
Joe, maybe it's some
something-
green.
Yeah, probably. was that Spencer?
The categories.
It was not.
Yeah.
It was not my cat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let's tell us about what your dream thing is right now, real quick.
Well, it's about your
well,
dreams.
it's still in the ether, working its way
Gestation.
Like a
way
show.
out. Yeah, some parallel
I
universe.
mean, you can't go-
I have workwear. I have
honestly-
workwear pants.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you get a gray trouser, get a khaki
Mhm.
trouser, get a brown, like dark brown trouser, get a navy. Maybe navy is optional, as we've talked about repeatedly.
Yeah.
Maybe
but
navy.
it's I
If
think
you're
getting that
Buddy
is
Holly
a good starting out.
Yeah.
To start it out, I think it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And the only thing is what cloth and what
Right,
what width and silhouette you want. And that'll
Yeah, see,
that'll
that
apply.
that goes back to the whole, deep dive into all the options, the sort of thing, what fits like the clothes I wear now and stuff like that.
Green, yeah. Scoop
Green
says green
trousers.
trousers. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, dude, called. I have those green Polo Ralph Lauren flannels, and those are some of my favorite cut trousers of all time. I wore them this past yesterday, I think, and then now it's just way too hot. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's talk to someone who works in some custom menswear. Let's get some insight
Oh my
from
god.
Kiyoshi.
Inside baseball.
Hello again.
Illuminators.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
Illuminate. Yeah, tell us your thoughts about custom, maybe a little bit of reflection, and what you think people should know.
I think you guys have covered, all the major points.
All right. Good night.
I think so that's the good news. The one thing I would say is that I think a lot of people, especially when they're first starting out getting custom, and they think that all custom places are close to the same, right? So
Right. Equal.
it's what you would get on Savile Row. Yeah, I know that's expensive, but I can go to my local custom suit shop and get the same exact experience, and I'll be able to tell them I want hand sewn buttonholes with a Milanese loop and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all these things that like you read about, like say on Permanent Style. You might be able to get some of those things, but not all of them. And there's a lot of writing about bespoke makers right now. There's not a lot of writers that review made to measure. And because of that, there's not a lot of, I think, great information about the limitations of made to measure. It's also not helped by the fact that a lot of made to measure places kind of muddy up the term bespoke. So it makes it difficult for people who are kind of starting their foray into this, or have read like 2 things on GQ, or a passing blog article or something here or there. It kind of, they have this perception that they're going to get like the Kingsman treatment.
They're gonna order their custom suit, and then the tailor's gonna be like, "Okay, now here is your grenade key fob."
Exactly. That is gonna be exactly what happens.
Wallet shotgun derbies.
And so I think one of the major misconceptions is that you're gonna get the crazy amount of control and how would you say it, like manufacturing details or hand sewn details that you would get with like a Savile Row suit or something. So I think that's one major thing that I would say, slow your roll unless you are going to go the Savile Row or something. Like, tamper down your expectations. More than likely, if you're in the United States, you're probably working through a made to measure outfit that will have limitations. But the good news is that those limitations, when it comes to fit, will still work, I feel like, for 90% of people, if not higher. There is a lot more that can be done beyond just making things a bit narrower and a bit longer. A decent place, they will be able to say, like on a pair of trousers, adjust the front rise, the back rise, the total rise. They'll be able to adjust whether or not you have a flat seat or a prominent seat, in addition to how you want the pants to taper and how long you want it to be. So those things are available on a jacket. At least the place I work with, we have 3 factories now that do suiting. So, and all 3 of them are able to adjust shoulder heights individually. So if you have asymmetrical shoulder heights, those can be adjusted. Same thing with your shoulder position. Maybe your shoulders pitch forward or pitch backward. That can be adjusted for. Armhole depth and height can be changed. So there is quite a bit you can do for a person's posture, and that is going to go and get you beyond what you can get off the rack through alterations. So I think when you would consider made to measure is maybe you have a body type that you struggle to get a good fit off the rack. It could be a very sloped shoulders, or a very like a bodybuilder type, or maybe you're just shorter than average for your chest size. It's hard to find suits that aren't too long in the jacket length, or the sleeve length for that matter, and you can't alter it shorter. I think that's a good reason to look into made to measure. Obviously, if you want greater flexibility in fabric, or you want a design of the suit to be something non-traditional, like a double-breasted, or a 3-roll 2, or patch pockets, or God forbid a sack suit, That's another area you could definitely use made to measure forms to get some of those details. But if you're starting to talk about stuff like, oh, I want an extended shoulder line, and I want a waterfall sleeve shoulder, that is kind of an area where, yes, technically these factories may be able to do it, but they're not going to look as good as the places that you've seen do it, like at a bespoke house that specializes in those things.
This reminds me, when I was working at Brooks Brothers, I was very apprehensive of like, if I ever did get like, if I was working here a while, I wanted to get like, if I did go to do a made to measure suit, and it'd only be like $540 or whatever to be with my discount. So it's like, eventually when I went to the LaSalle and Adams place in Chicago, which is no longer open, unfortunately, they told me, yeah, you can open up those quarters, which I thought for the longest time you couldn't. So like those tiny details that just like, that's going to get really hard, and can the factory do it? So yeah, it's always interesting hearing those little things that can make a huge difference depending on if you're into it or not.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say is, I mean, this is going to sound super judgmental, but take a look at places like Instagram and see what their employees are wearing.
Right.
Yeah.
And see if you like the way that they make their clothes for themselves. I feel like or the way they make it for their clients, for that matter. Don't really go by like lookbook type stuff. Try to look at more naturally shot things, if it pics, or if they're doing stuff on the stories or whatever. Because that'll give you an idea of, a lot of these factory, a lot of these made to measure places are working on a factory block, right? So a lot of them are going to be using the same block patterns, to be pretty honest. But the thing I would look at is, how do they think suits should fit on themselves? Are they making them like overly skinny? Are they doing lots of like, crazy contrast stitching, kind of tacky shit?
Yeah.
Maybe that's your thing, and that's where you should go, right? Like, but if it's not, then, well, maybe keep looking a little bit longer. And I think that's like kind of important, because they should believe that what they're wearing is like the best representation of what they can do, to a certain extent. So I think that's important too, is to kind of see if it's something that jives with you. But yeah, nowadays like we do like people just want to like chat with us. We do things over Zoom. So it's a very low commitment.
Well, just like a consultation,
for 10 minutes, right. To see if answer any questions you might have and whatnot before making the trek and going into make an appointment to go see him in person. But I would maybe suggest doing something like that, just to kind of feel a couple places out a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing too is like a lot of places like play a little coy with price. What I can say just in general on pricing is probably if it's around like $500 to $700 for a 2-piece, 100% wool suit, it's probably half canvas. Full canvas will probably start around $1,000, give or take $100. And more than likely at those prices, you're looking at either made in India or made in China.
Right.
Made in Italy, I would say add, anywhere from $700 to $1,000 on top of that, to start. So that's the other thing too, is like I don't really think that at $500, it's like, is it worth it to do a half canvas garment? I'm not really sure. I think it's, for some people, it's like, well, I want a certain fabric and, it's comparable to what I would pay off the rack somewhere. But I kind of think, yeah, if your budget's starting like around, with tax and everything around 1,200, your options really open up, and you're gonna get a better leap in quality that you would probably be a lot happier with long term.
Right.
So that's just kind of where I would look at it. Outside of like where I work now, I haven't had too much experience with made to measure places. My last job, I did made to order with Samuelson, which is based out of Montreal, Canada, and Ring Jacket. Made to order, I think, is great if you're able to find a place that does it, in the sense where you can get the sleeve length and jacket length changed, but you like the core of what else is there, and it fits you really well. That can be a way to not have to pay the full made to measure pricing, and still get a lot of flexibility on fabric and potentially design. So I think that's a great place to look as an alternative to going full in on made to measure. We could look for made to order from there. And
Right.
and before that, my very first custom suit was gifted to me by Indochino.
Nice.
If you kind of search through my old Tumblr, you can see my review, which I kind of bit my tongue quite a bit on. And it was interesting because they did like a pop-up in like the Union Station in downtown Chicago, and they invited me out there, and they're like, "Oh, we'll measure you in person, et cetera, et cetera." I'm like, "Oh, okay." That was always my hesitation at the time. And the jacket was passable. The pants, I always hear this about Indochino. It's like pants were just way too tight. And I don't know why, because they even put me in a template pant. And so I was like, even after a template pant, they still made the pants too tight in the waist and in the seat. It was really hard to move in. So,
Oh no.
but yeah, so I'm always a bit leery of self measurement things where people request measurements. It's always how you are measuring versus how it's interpreted and how they want you to measure. And that is really hard. One of our factories does allow us to submit and make garments through body measurements. And let me tell you, it turns out okay. For shirts, I've had about 75%, I would say, on the test garments I've made for jackets, and about 25% on pants. Pants are actually the hardest because people aren't consistent on where they measure, where they want the pant to sit on their waist, and where they want the rise to stop and start on the back and the front.
I'm right with you, dude.
That's really, really crucial to creating a good fitting pant. So
I mean, yeah, I'm
a big believer in trying on a template. Made to measure.
Pants are like the hardest thing. I think I've told a lot of people about my experience with it, even with Dave. So like my first pant suits from him, I think it's because they're stretch, or also the pants were a lot slimmer. They're more like Drake style or whatever. So all that was fine, and then I started to widen it. But I guess maybe I should have inquired about. Well, I guess it just doesn't come up until you do it, right? So like I widened the pant, and the cut is good, but like the way the U rise was cut was just a little too sharp, and I needed to let that out. And then so I had a call with him this morning. So turns out I'm getting my khaki suit.
Hey, there you go.
Hey,
really excited to do that. One quick note: I think it might not be button pocket harmony because of the flap part of the pocket, since that sits above the pocket line. So, but I did want like an Ivy style, 3-roll to khaki with the flap, with the patch flap. So I'll just
patch
you
flap.
can crucify me now.
And I will. I'm coming over.
Or I just
Bring the
remove
nails.
I remove the things. Yeah, I just tuck in the pocket thing. You know, the flaps.
It's always
That's
awkward with the
how I would
flat
do it.
patch, isn't it? To
I
tuck
mean, I
it.
love it, but I still tuck it. I mean, it's one of those things, right? It's just like that.
The old thing.
Tuck it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, yeah, I had a call with him this morning. I said, "Okay, we're gonna have to add an inch to the rise just because I want that extra slack
Yeah.
in the crotch." You know, what
I mean, I was
So-
wearing my Stofa trousers today, for the episode, and as I've said before, I was wearing them. I'm like, these are a little slim.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like what Kiyoshi, I think I don't remember if Kiyoshi brought this up earlier, if this is something that Kiyoshi said in the Discord. But yeah, I was like, I went into the Ralph Lauren and I tried on the like the really wide leg like double RL pants. I'm like, you know what? I like how these fit a lot more. But then it's like, why the fuck would you get these like wide pants that completely hide the shape of your legs, custom made?
Yeah.
That's
You want you want them in the fabric.
yeah.
in that thing. That's like, I mean, again, like I would love it if there was a wide leg pant. I would do that made to order, made to measure, but because we can't do that, and then it's like, you have like the Scott Fraser Simpson pants. It's like, okay, if I'm spending like $400 on this, it's like, okay, well, at that point I want to get side tabs, but he doesn't do side tabs, so it's like, okay, fuck, so, but yeah, I mean, again, the cut of the pant is really, especially pants are extremely tough, man. Like that's like the number one thing. Before I move, actually, Hendrik, talk about pants.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what I've done as for custom orders. I'm not sure whether it was just easy on me or whether I was lucky. I mean, I started out having some shirts made a couple of years ago from like the usual suspects that you can get stateside and from like Proper Cloth or these places, and they had to every time they had to remake it a couple of times before it. It's pretty good, but with Luxeer, it's been great from the beginning.
Because you did it based on a template, right?
Yes, and they used to send them body measurements.
Oh, okay.
But they have it. I didn't look that further into it because I just decided to try it because I wanted cavalry twill trousers. You can't get; it's very hard to find.
Yes.
So I want to try that, and there was like a Black Friday sale or whatever a couple of years ago, and I go, okay, I'll give it a go. It's fine. I can eat the expense. I want to try if I can actually have pants made because. With jackets and stuff, I've had like a very, very different strategy. I don't expect to be able to afford anything that's truly bespoke or even close anytime soon. So my strategy has been basically, okay, let's find a ready-to-wear brand that actually fits you. So I spend like a lot of time trying on a bunch of stuff, and you will find something maybe that fits you. And I found like vintage Brooks. An Anglo-Italian fits me to a T. I don't have a difficult size. It's perfect. So if I can get ready to wear, one day I'll try on a ring jacket to see if I can find the right size, but I don't think that's going to work because looking at the measurements. But for pants, it's a bigger problem because it's much harder to find good ready-to-wear pants for at least for my body, but probably for most people. Even expensive trousers are like too tight. Even if they are supposedly full cut, so like even my armory chinos, for instance, they pinch or like cut in the crotch. You don't want that. So
yeah, I'm telling you, it's a thing. It's like a thing that happens.
It's like universally so. It's just insane. Yeah.
Whenever companies do like a wide leg pant, for some reason, the fucking U-rise is always just cut too sharp. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that happens. We have
these aren't even commission or something. We got to figure this out.
Because it's not even like my SJC pants aren't even custom made. They're just ready to wear, and I put those on, and it's like just I don't know what it was. Maybe I should have sized up in the waist, but like then it would have been too big, it was just really bizarre. I don't know what that is, and that's
Yes,
like
yeah.
it's
I'm
really
thinking.
weird.
But this was the solution. Kyoshi has an answer for this.
Yeah. I think what it might be is, so even when you measure a U rise, right, which the top of the waistband on the front, past the tape, underneath the crotch and up to the top of the back rise, at the back of the waistband, that number, when you're in pattern making, you have a ratio that divides the front rise and the back rise, right? So the back rise is going to be longer than the front rise.
Obviously, yes, yeah.
You can obviously shift that point, but keep the U rise the same. But also the other thing too is when it's cut, the back rise curve. So the curvature of when you're laying the pant flat, on its side. So it has like the creases are correct. On the back rise, that curve line, which looks like a slope or an L of some sort.
Yep.
If that is too shallow, it cuts into your seat too soon. That is basically what gives you a wedgie. So what you want to do is lower the back rise curve, which basically means you're cutting it, instead of shallow, you're cutting it deeper. So you're not actually changing necessarily the length of the back rise, but instead the curvature of it is to be like a longer, deeper L.
That was one of our first conversations, I think, here too. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't change that after it's already been cut and sewn.
The only way you can
part of the pattern making itself.
Yeah. The only way you can kind of get around it is just by literally having excess in there to just give you more room. Obviously, it's not the same thing as starting it out from the beginning, but it's one solution that I had to do for mine, and I don't know if Dave's thing can account for that. But I also just find I like having extra room. Like I've been wearing like you guys have seen it, like those 1940s gray gabardine trousers. I think that U rise is huge. I think if I measured it, it might be like a 14 or whatever. But like the way it's cut or whatever, there's just so much room. I like to have for my balls to butt crack to breathe. Gotta have
your bunghole.
Yeah. Yeah, Henrik. Any last things you wanted to say before we move on to?
The reason why that's why I've kept buying from them is also that you do get that fabric choice. That is sort of what I wanted for trousers. You can
There's always a reason, right? There's always that lack that you go, okay, I have to get custom to get that there.
Yeah, and it's like with some of these places, fabric is expensive, but you can actually get some of the best fabrics around, and you can see if that's something that's worth it to you. I haven't bought like Fox flannels on, but you can buy it. It's expensive, but it's not outrageous. Right. You can get like Brisbane moss, corduroy, or like E. Thomas,
right,
summer wool or whatever. All of that stuff is available from like the finest mills around, saying, okay, if that's worth it to you, and the only chance to get that at that price point, I think.
That's definitely true,
and that's been a real learning experience. Like, is this worth it? And it's like, in most cases, in fact, it is to get those fabrics, and so that's sort of been the solution from now on. Is like ready to wear jackets from the brands fit you, and then get made to measure trousers. I don't think I'm gonna deviate from that until I have like serious money to go to Naples or something and have proper fitting, because it's true, like to get to that next level will cost a lot, but it won't be like a 1-to-1 return on the extra money you spend. Like that's in most luxury items. Truly exceptional things are not like blowing your brains out amazing. It's like subtle details and deeper qualities that is invisible to everyone but you, and not being able to appreciate by most people. So that's luxury across the board. It's with like wine and food and stuff as well. It's
Right. I mean,
So
yeah, and in that jump, you get more confidence. Also, there's not as much guesswork from what you're adjusting and what you're gonna get at the end.
yeah, but it tried. Maybe I just got lucky with the measurements. I mean, I had my tailor then in St. Paul, Minnesota, to do all the measurements, and the way she did it, not the way I would have done it if I had to do it myself. I was like weirded out by how she did it, and I just double asked her like, "Why? Okay." She measured it like in this kind of loose way,
Right.
and it's like this is not the way I would have done. The measurements were like weird. Is not something I would have recognized. But I punched them in to the side, made the adjustments after, and it was great. So
Yeah, maybe we'll see if I've got the extra spending money sometime, which I normally don't.
yeah,
So,
but I think
find
it
out.
has to do something with your body as
He
well.
said as he keeps buying Aldens.
Yeah,
Well, but it's not. The thing is, it's not. At least it's not me buying like other trousers, right? Like that's kind of what the,
Focusing
I'd be
on
more of
one.
a hypocrite for that kind of a thing. I do. We'll move on. I know we're gonna answer Scoop's question at the end of this about canvas and full and half canvas. We'll answer that before we close out. But
sure will.
Jason, let's talk
Alright.
to you because you also worked in kind of custom stuff. You worked with Dave. You also custom is probably the only way you'll be able to get the cut that you like. You have a very specific silhouette and everything.
Yeah, well, we talked about that too in the upcoming
don't-
podcast.
Yeah, don't tease too much. You
no
gotta let them have
spoilies.
Yeah, no spoilers.
No spoilies.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, custom is like the only way I can get anything that is remotely, I mean, not remotely close, but that captures the essence that I go for. It's just not happening unless there's only like a handful of places I could probably go to get it, and it's way more expensive than I am willing to spend.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Right.
And that's like what I'm doing, right, is it's not, I'm not going to say it's bespoke, but it's also not really made to measure either, because I'm the way my whole thing works is that it's I'm doing full body measurements. Everyone gets their own pattern, so every there is no block.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everyone. It's all based off body measurements and something through sampling have figured out the sort of how to interpret those body measurements into the garment. I've worked with the factory, taken forever, and it's cost a lot of money, but I think it's better than just having a standard block and sort of altering it prior. So it goes like two fittings. Obviously, you have the initial fitting, then we have a second fitting, and then you get your final finished one. So it's it's a little bit different of an experience, right? That sort of,
Right.
again, I'm not saying it's not full bespoke, because I personally, I'm not cutting anything. I'm not, doing any of the, heavy lifting once I finish with, I do the measuring, and then, I've already spent the time creating the sort of interpretation of the pattern. Then the factory is what does everything else. They cut everything by hand, but everyone is getting their own pattern. So it's a different experience completely that I think than from walking into an Indochino, because like Kiyoshi had said, you're talking, and I think you had said it too, Ethan. Like you're talking with me, and I'm going to find out how I can get my POV into a garment that's going to fit you, whether
Right.
that be, like I said, like less waist suppression, or creating the rise a little differently, a little shallower, so that way on the outside it looks like something I made, but you're comfortable in it and it fits you obviously the right way, and it's the minute changes, and again, it's that experience of having, it comes in, then the pseudo finished garment comes in, you try it on again, and then we, make all of our tweaks, whether that's rotating a sleeve, or, finishing the bottoms, and then, another, week or two goes by and you get your final suit. Whereas in my experience with a lot of made-to-measure places is just, here it is. Take it or leave it. We can adjust the sleeve a little more, like shorten it, but there's no, if it's getting kind of baggy and, it's like, oh, well, you can't do much afterward, other than you can rotate the sleeve and do that. So that's something that I've, wanted to do, is doing that, getting a little more in depth in it. So it's not, what I do isn't really made to measure, but it's not full bespoke either.
Right.
So I think the custom, I think, is very important to somebody if they have a very specific outlook. If for the bulk of people, like for your standard business person, doesn't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like for when like people want like work suits, it doesn't make, to me at least. And I say this as someone who wants to sell you these things, but like bespoke business suits like to like go to work in just don't make sense to me. Why are you going to pay all this money to then sit in a cubicle or sit in your office? And especially now you're working from home. Which is why my whole outlook on it's like, I don't do a lot of like, I don't showcase a lot of plain navy or plain things because everyone knows what that looks like. If you really want a navy suit from me, you know what it's going to look like.
Right.
And obviously no one's wearing plaid. No one's wearing like green plaid suits to work. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, the custom, I think, is I think everyone that's in this world should give it a try at some point. You're definitely, I mean, like you said earlier, you're definitely going to make mistakes. Refine. Just, I mean, alone. When I first started, even with like Dave, the first few suits I had, the pants were still kind of slim, and the rise a little lower. And so everything's, things were just slightly off. I mean, I still wear them. I ended up opening the pants up on like that corduroy, that burgundy corduroy suit. I opened up the pants and all the way down the leg. So there's still a taper to them, but they're like an inch wider, which is good. But like on the newest, on the newest sample, my single-breasted sample, like it's a 15.5-inch circumference opening on a pant that on me is like a 13-inch rise. So it evolves, but you kind of you got to make those initial missteps before you can actually know what's right. And that's the worst part about the game when it comes to custom. It's when you walk in, you have all the confidence. When you leave, when you leave too, when you walk out the door, you have all this confidence, and then the 4 to 6 weeks where all that confidence just gets chipped and chipped and chipped away at until it comes back, and then you either love it or hate it. I have found myself on the loving it side of things. But I mean, I've been working in stores my entire adult life, so I've seen and heard the horror stories. So it's I think it's worth it for everyone to give it a try. I mean, whether you're trying
it, if you know what you want, then I think you got to do it.
Just you really have to know what you want, especially if you're going to walk into I don't want to say the lower end, but if you're going to walk into the cheaper end of it, you have to know what you want. Because, like Kiyoshi said, if the suit is like, $400 or $500, the most likely, it's most likely the person selling it to you doesn't know what he's doing that much. They don't know a lot of the people over Indochino don't really know what they're doing.
I'll say this much. If someone is slinging $500 custom suits and they're any good, they're not doing it for very long because they get routed away to somewhere better to do higher end custom suiting somewhere else.
Right.
So
exactly.
keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look at Dave. Dave worked at like Indochino for like 2 weeks until he quit and started,
Started
Atelier
doing
Vue.
his own
Now he makes
thing.
some of my
Yeah.
suits.
He
So,
worked
Right.
at Indochino, and he was like, "I could do this better."
Yeah,
Indochino, more like Atelier Fugue.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he actually said that.
He said that.
Yeah,
I've
that's
heard
it.
him say
Yeah.
it before. I know the guy,
Yeah.
so I've heard him say
I
it.
would
Yeah.
know.
I was
Well, we
there.
do have 2 more people to talk to really briefly before we close out and get to
Yeah.
Scoop's question. Ivan, do you want to talk a little bit about your brief experience with custom?
Yeah, I have 2 experiences with custom. The first one was in like late 2017, early 2018, and it was one of those suits that you find on eBay, like those cheap Chinese
That's
make measure suits.
right.
I'm gonna send
Oh
the
my
link in the
God.
I'm
Discord.
always so curious about those. I'm always so curious, and you've sent pictures of these
And they
before.
feel like
I think.
Gatsby 1920 suit, like $200 or whatever.
Yeah,
Put
so
measurements.
I was dead set on a light blue linen double-breasted suit. So I told them to do it double-breasted, and I also told them to do it. I told them to only line the sleeves, but then the guy was like, "Oh, our factory can only do butterfly lining," and I'm like, "Okay, we'll do that." And then they
Fine.
got back to me and they said, "Oh, well, we can only do full lining." I'm like, "Fuck it, okay, fine." So when the suit came in, it was really weird. The sleeve pitching was really weird, and I think the weirdest thing they gave me was they put raglan sleeves on the jacket, which
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
never
That
asked
was
for.
nuts.
I
don't
That's
know.
insane, dude.
Why they
And
did
at the
that?
time, I didn't know what raglan sleeves were, so I was like, I knew there was something wrong with the shoulder, so I contacted the company again. I'm like, well, why didn't you put shoulder pads? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the shoulder looks really droopy and rounded. And they were like, well, we can't help you. So I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I just kept it. For the pants, I obviously made it high rise, but I only provided the U rise, so the front rise and the back rise is the same. So when I wear the pants, the back comes down a lot, so I have to keep pulling it up. But the rise itself is like really high. And I also I didn't provide any hem measurements, so it's slimmer than I like. And for my second custom experience was with natty shirts.
Okay.
So I really wanted all spear point shirts. So I ordered.
Absolutely.
So I ordered 6 spear points, and for those of you who don't know, with natty shirts, if you order 6 shirts, they send you a sample shirt.
That never happened to me, by the way. They never did that. They just sent me all of them.
So my experience with natty shirts is a bit of a roller coaster. So
Ooh, I love roller coasters.
Nice.
So when I made my order, I said put a soft collar and cuffs, and also when you make the double cuffs, I want you to put the cuff buttonholes closer to the fold, like on a Turnbull and Asser shirt, because I don't know, I just really wanted that detail.
Yeah.
So when they made
He said,
the
I'd like Turnbull and Asser for less, please.
No. Budget.
So they took like 3 or 4 weeks to make the sample shirt, which was really weird. Because when I emailed them, I'm like, "Hey, where's the sample shirt?" They had already shipped it, so I kind of felt bad about that. The sample shirt itself had fused collars and cuffs, so when I told them to fix that, they were like, "Oh, well, you didn't specify that you wanted soft collars and cuffs," and I'm like, "I didn't know I had to specify that since you had that as an option." So they sent me. I also said, "Can you make the collar a bit more closer together?" Because I thought their spear point collar was too spread out. So when they sent me the 6 shirts, they got the soft collars and the cuffs, and they got the pointed spear point collars, but they got the double cuffs wrong. And I don't know how they did that wrong because they got it right on the sample shirt. So I'm like, so I contacted the company again, and I'm like, can you make me 6 new shirts because of this small, minute detail? So they did,
Well,
and I'm like, well,
there you go.
now I have 12 shirts, and they're all almost exactly the same. So I just made detachable color shirts. Yeah.
Well, there you
Wow.
go. Why not? Yeah, just cut off the collars on 6 of them. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, I think I talked a little bit about the spear points in the spear point. Well, the natty shirt experience from the spear point essay and episode. Yeah, it's a wild place, man. I had to go through a lot of the only reason I found it is because I was on the Fedora Lounge, and people were like, "Oh, we bought it here," and I think some it was like one of those things.
I think
like
they were an
the,
affiliate.
yeah, like a Styleform affiliate or whatever, that kind of thing. So they were active in the forum. I said, "Hey, we can make the spear point collar." I think a problematic guy actually designed it for them, so they just use that forever. Not gonna say his name, but people could do it. But they said that okay, you have to email us and write it in because it's not an available option on the website. And so whenever people after that, as time went on with the blog getting more popular, and I've worn these since 2014. I've been wearing spear point collars forever. They were people like, "Oh, how do you get it?" I'm like, "Okay, you go to Natty Shirts. You're gonna go to the website, put in your measurements, whatever. Then you're gonna click whatever. I say click the point collar because I think a guy. I at first I said just pick a random collar, but then write in spear point.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got a bad collar from that. So I said, okay, you know what? Just put in point collar. You do everything. Then you can say as an option unlined collar cuffs, and then in special instructions say you want an unlined collar cuffs and say you want the spear point collar with a 3 or whatever 4-inch collar length.
And like I said, you also had to be careful. Don't just say unlined collar and cuffs. You also got to say unlined placket. Anything that can be lined, you have to specify whether or not you want it lined.
The funny thing is mine. Well, I think that's what happened because with mine, for a couple of shirts, I didn't even put a plaque. I had the French front, which I liked for a little bit. So you can't line that, obviously. So I was okay.
They will try.
I like a placket,
but
God loves a placket, and so do I.
I know. I eventually I was like, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I think it's a
Yeah.
little too clean for me.
Exactly.
But that's why I
Placket
like
for the
Ascot
win.
Chang's. I went through a couple of iterations. Well, not a couple. I had one iteration for that we got for the first round, and then the second time the next year, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be more adamant. So I actually traced out my Natty Shirts collar, and then gave instructions on what I wanted, like reduce the spread here, make it a little more blunted instead of sharp, and it worked out really good. And now I want more from Ascot Chang, and I don't know if I'll have the money for it yet, but it'll eventually happen.
They're gonna give you a discount still.
I doubt it. I mean, I would probably have to go to Hong Kong. You think my old man coworker is gonna be like, "Oh yeah, Ethan, you can have half off"? No, of course not, dude. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I
could always
have to go maybe when the managers around, or just
Yeah.
maybe be really nice to. I mean, Justin and I are still fine. He never got back to me about my chambray because I want to get a chambray spear point. But with the USN pocket, the kind of the button. But the button patch pockets, not the flaps, but you know what I mean. I think that looks really cool. But we'll see. I mean, I don't really need it right now because I just bought a custom suit and I bought Kill Cordovan 2 weeks ago, and so yeah, we'll find out about that custom. But shirts, I think, are easy. I think shirts are more of a shirts are like pants where you can justify it a little bit more because maybe you want a really specific shirt or collar or something that you can really only get made to measure or bespoke, I guess, for spear points and everything.
bespoke, as some people say.
Really quick,
Bespoke.
Sam, I see you're in here.
Yes, I am.
Any small pearls of wisdom or insight you want to give to us before we close out tonight, and then answer Scoop's question?
Yeah, drawing on my experience with custom as a client,
you are really only buying the fitter. Like my first custom suit ever, I went in and I hadn't learned what is like a good fit for me yet. And going a custom route when I didn't know that for myself was like the most critical failure and expensive lesson that I ever learned in clothing. Because you basically put your whole appearance in their hands and they just sculpt you how they want. In the case of where I went, they just did very much a fashion fit, which meant that I ended up with a jacket that lengthwise barely reached my wrist bone. And the button stance, it felt like it was halfway up my ribs. So I'd bought a three-piece suit, of which I basically threw the jacket in the bin. And that was a very expensive lesson to learn. So, like, you are buying the fitter. You've got to see sort of, it's almost like give them the job interview when you go in. If you don't know them, you've got to see what they like, how they wear it, and what they would do on you, and get them to step it out to make sure it's going to work for you. Otherwise, it's a hell of a gamble.
And you don't want to gamble.
No.
Not a gambling man.
Not a
Only in
gambling.
poker, right?
Only in poker on Wednesdays.
Yeah, only
when
Wednesday
it's free.
poker night.
That's kind of what we said about before, right? With Kyoshi and Jason, like you got to look at how the salespeople dress and see how they approach making their own garments, because that'll tell you how they're gonna make yours, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
like what's
kinda
the
tight.
house look?
Yeah, but even with the house style, it's not so much that. If you've got any particular fit challenges that are fairly unique on your body, like for me, I have quite a bit of excess skin from weight loss. If you're dealing with a fitter who has no idea how to specify
Account
a cut
for
for
it,
that or a
yeah.
pattern for it, you're going to get something that doesn't fit right. So even myself, like working in custom now, it took me a couple of goes to figure out how to actually account for that when I cut my own pattern, to figure out, like, for me, side adjusters on pants are useless because I've got that much moving skin around that if I try and tighten the side adjusters, it does nothing, because if I stand up or sit down, I've got a good 1 to 2 inches of skin that moves from one spot to another. So it's like wearing belts, same deal. I wear belts because I like the look of them, not for the function. If I want pants that are actually going to stay up all day, I need to wear braces.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
That's,
I
I
can't
mean,
cut
yeah.
for like I can't have it cut close to my waist, because for it to be tight enough on the waistline that it won't fall down when I'm standing up, it has to basically squash me into 2 sizes smaller when I sit down. So like, learning how to cut for that and how to account for that in a pattern, that took me a lot of money and a lot of time. And if you go into a custom shop who's never had to deal with that before and you have that issue, you're going to be paying for them to learn how to account for that fit challenge.
Right.
And not many of us have that. Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I don't got the money to experiment and figure it out. You know.
No,
Yeah.
I mean we're all young guys who would not have that kind of money.
Yeah, all the young dudes
Well,
who can't afford to pay for bespoke.
Speaking of that, I know we're about to close out here, but David says, would we try made to measure or bespoke shoe services? That's kind of a tough one, I think.
Yeah, I mean
No.
that's
Yep.
like
No.
far out.
100% I would do that.
I don't think I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but it's like I don't feel the need. I don't have.
As
Well,
long
'cause
as
it's like-
regions
it's-
are
it's-
$110.
Is a bespoke shoe gonna stop you from hurting after a full day in walking around in dress shoes? Probably not, right? Like nothing. That's just
No.
how a dress shoe. Like they're not sneakers. They're
Just
literally
get
not
better
sneakers.
feet.
Right?
Yeah, it's always
Just
going to
get
be a
better
bit
feet.
uncomfortable.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
Like for me, I have an instep that makes me almost one full shoe size larger on my left foot compared to my right. So if I had the cash to go bespoke shoes, I would do it and never look back.
God,
Yeah.
You're just full of problems.
Interesting. Wow, that's
Well,
wild. Yeah, I
that
never.
seems like you could just do made to order, so you could get 2 different shoe sizes.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Or
just buy
That
loose
would be
when the
wear
salesperson's
everything
not
one shoe
looking,
at the moment.
just swap the
Switch
box.
it. Yeah.
We have 2 different shoe sizes. someone
Yeah.
else's fucked.
I mean, hey
but-
Kiyoshi, if Alden gets 2 different color 8 shades, I mean, are they
You
gonna
need
really
two
miss
different
2
sizes
different
for sure. Yeah.
2 different sizes? Yeah, come on.
We're fixing
Look
it.
at this idiot.
But yeah, no, I think custom shoes is tough. Like I think I said this before, maybe on our poker night, but like I can't even fathom like designing the shoe. Like I can't I mean, I feel like that would be like a part for a bespoke shoe. Like okay, maybe we're gonna have this kind of vamp here, but I'm like I don't even, dude. Like
yeah, seems stupid.
Jack suits already stressed me out enough to like create something. I'm like I don't know what's gonna look like. I don't want to regret like a $2,000 shoe. Like
No.
that's crazy.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I don't know enough yet about shoemakers. Maybe in the future after my tailoring calms down, which it probably never will, but maybe we'll find out. I don't think I'll
Maybe,
ever have the income.
A
I don't
factory
think I'll ever have
reached
the
out to me
income
once.
to do it.
A factory reached out to me
knitwear
once,
seems
and
to be a thing.
I wanted to like do shoes for my
Yes.
brand, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not designing a shoe.
Yeah. Knitwear is interesting. I mean, that's something kind of in line with like, okay, you want the trouser to be high waisted in cavalry twill, right? Or you want the shirt with 3-point collar, so I guess knitwear, right? Oh, I want the wide ribbing short length. Maybe then that's like, something that we're gonna have to look at. I don't really know what the perfect sweater or knitwear looks like on me. That's like because it's like the idea, right? Is like when we buy vintage ones, like oh yeah, the blousing's supposed to happen because it's excess fabric, right? Like that's what you're supposed to. But like, do I remove it completely? And what's the right amount of slack for a bespoke knitwear, right? I don't really know. It's really tough. That's
It's
kind of a
hard.
yeah. Well, Scoops asked the big question. We're gonna finish off with this tonight. Why is half canvas not worth it as opposed to full canvas? Now that is a very kind of a loaded. You kind of phrase the question weird. It's more so, what do you prefer, half canvas or
why
full
do
canvas?
anything halfway?
No half measures.
Well, so again,
taken.
canvas is that horsehair thing? Like it's what I don't know. Is it horsehair, mohair, and wool? Whatever, like that combination garment. Like it's like a thing that kind of lines like the shoulder all the way down through the chest into the front panels of the jacket, typically, and it's what gives the garment its shape. It's what gives it the 3-dimensional. It gives especially with hand padded lapels, it gets that really rolling lapel that you see a lot, that you see fetishized a lot. But I think just like with bespoke versus made to measure or custom, whatever, it's kind of, been bastardized a little bit. Like just because something is full canvas doesn't mean it's automatically good. You can have a shitty suit with full canvas, right?
Oh,
There's also
sure.
different qualities. There's different qualities of canvas too, and how they attach it. So like I think you can have a machine done full canvas suit. I don't know if that's actually entirely
They
possible,
can
but
glue it in too.
They can glue it in too. Yeah,
They can fuse the
Yeah.
canvas in there, which
Yeah,
defeats the whole
exactly.
purpose.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things again where the question needs to be elaborated a little bit. Because say that maybe you're doing ring jacket and you're okay, what's better? Ring jacket half canvas, ring jacket full canvas, and ring jacket is technically full canvas. I think they have different amounts and like the heft of the canvas to pay based on like the different line, different model of what it is. But from what I've found is that a lot of made to measure stuff, especially like Kiyoshi said, like the cheaper stuff, also like Spear McKay, Suit Supply, and those are all okay. So sorry about that, Kiyoshi. You were talking about the value of full canvas.
Oh yeah. So the one thing I was gonna say is how it wears over time, and my oldest full canvas jackets are from Ring Jacket, probably 8 or 9 years old. When you're right when you like first put them on, but you really begin to feel like it's your jacket after a couple years, and I don't know. I just think that they actually do kind of drape very well, longer over time. Some of my newer stuff from like Hall Madden when I first started still feels really good in like the whole of the jacket, all the way down to the hem. So I think it's worth paying the extra money, especially if you're going to go through multiple fits fittings with whoever you choose to make your coat.
Oh, wait.
To me,
Yep.
I feel like that's important. But yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things, right, where until you've tried a lot of different things, you probably won't appreciate it more. Especially since a lot of the middling part of menswear, like the Spear McKay stuff, what is it, the Cavor and Co. Whatever, a lot of those are half canvas. And I stay there, which is fine, but it's one of those things where I think it puts out that narrative that maybe full canvas isn't worth it, but it's just, you just gotta try it, right? It's kind of like fine dining, where yeah, obviously you're not gonna get the same Korean barbecue stuff, but the quality is there, and if you want it, you should try it, and you should have it at least once.
You should have
the good
it.
thing,
You
right, is
deserve
that
it.
As long as it's not glued together, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, ring jacket is fully canvas, like we said, and I love wearing. I think those actually fit me the best. My Ascot chain jacket is fully canvas. It feels so good, and wearing it compared to my Spear McKay stuff, it just doesn't. It's just, I mean, that might Spear and McKay is inherently worse off, but it just definitely feels like a cheaper garment, and it. Not just because of the design, but just the way it fits and molds to the body. I was even showing my girlfriend some of that. I was again, I was talking to Dave this morning about wearing stuff, and even comparing his cotton jackets or even the corduroys to my ring jacket, you could tell that the drape is different. Obviously, of course, you're playing the different fabrics here. I don't know where a cotton twill, how that plays into plays in with canvas, as opposed to a hop sack or something where you can actually see the wool,
Right.
kind of mold to the body better, because cotton is stiffer, right? So it kind of doesn't really work that way with canvas. I don't know.
The
Maybe
canvas thing is also going to help. It's going to weigh down a little bit on the front, and it's going to allow the drape. With the fugue stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fugue stuff is unconstructed completely. There's no.
I thought it was half canvas now.
Or light.
It's
whatever
low.
that means.
It's light canvas,
Heavy
which
canvas.
is it. Yeah,
Right.
it's not. Yeah, it's not a whole lot, but
It's probably just in the chest, right? Not even not through the whole front.
it's not like I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's half, but I mean that lends itself to a different look.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a different vibe, right?
Oh, what is it?
Different vibe.
Famously,
Mhm.
Articles of Style had a big thing where they said all of our stuff is half canvas. But then the reason why it got into a little bit of controversy is because they said it's the best that your money can get, and maybe they're trying to phrase it as the value. But in general, it's well, maybe for a longer lasting thing, you would want to do full canvas. But of course, people always spin it half canvas allows, it's better, it feels lighter, you feel more comfortable, it feels like you can just put it on. Yeah, those are all kind of marketing copy too. But I think that
It's
again with
marketing copy.
when you can when you have a good maker, full awesome. It just feels unparalleled. Again, you don't have to have it, but if you're considering it, I think you should just always opt for it, and especially when you're doing bespoke, because I think bespoke
So you're not
will
doing
take
multiple
advantage.
bespoke.
True. Yeah, I mean, like a true bespoke experience will take advantage of full canvas more than
Right.
doing bespoke,
even-
but then it's half canvas feels kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't even offer people half canvas. You can only get full canvas from this.
You're
guy.
I'm not even gonna curse you with this. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
let this happen to you.
Made
mean,
to
there
measure,
is-
I guess half canvas makes sense, but to do a bespoke suit, really full canvas, that seems like the way to
Yeah.
go.
Absolutely, guys.
You have two options. You have full
Absolutely.
canvas, and then you have full canvas completely handmade.
You have two options. You have full canvas, or you have get the fuck out.
Yeah. And I'm all out of
Get the fuck to
bubblegum.
the door.
Mhm.
Out to the
Well,
door.
guys, thank you for joining us today. I know
You're
we
welcome.
lagged a little bit, but we're all good here. I hope you've enjoyed this
all good
discussion on
here.
custom menswear. I mean, obviously we didn't touch everything. We talked about knitwear for 2 seconds. We talked briefly about shoes. I mean, there's a lot and it's just because some of us haven't had the need or will
free.
experience that. I can say that even though I like bespoke tailoring, again, I don't even know where on the timeline a bespoke shoe would even make sense. Like I don't know if my career, income, or even what I want
On your
from clothing.
Yeah.
I'll be wearing like Yohei Fukuda bespoke shoes on my deathbed, and they're like in pristine condition because I got them the day I died. But
That's actually what
again,
ends up killing you. The box
Yeah.
falls off the truck, hits you mad, puts you out.
You die in sleep.
But yeah, if you want more of a discussion about our personal stuff, I mean, obviously we talked a little about it here, but Spencer and I, we talked a lot about it in our podcast episodes. It's available on all platforms. We also have an essay about my personal thoughts about it, more so about my aesthetic, how that plays into it, and the anxiety that comes with my very limited experience with custom. Again, a lot of it is also based on because I worked in the industry and I had some homie discounts. I probably, if I was buying it myself, I wouldn't have tried all this stuff on my own, which also plays into the the luxurious and the price point that you have to get into menswear, at least in the way that we like it.